Hello， 大家好。所以如果大家不知道的话，其实待会我的 talk 我会用英文啊，因为我中文我没有那个把握，可以把整个 talk 用中文讲完。对，可是如果是待会如果要跟我问一些问题还是闲聊的话，我 OK 的。只是这种比较正式的场合，真的没有办法用中文。OK，so OK， 我要换英文啦，所以大家心理准备好。OK，so 待会会有。Okay, so 英文。Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about what happens when your Django site gets really popular, right? So internally within our company, we call it like dancing with fire, you're playing with fire, because the things that happen when your Django site goes down is insane. Like you don't even know what goes down, what's wrong, and stuff like that. So I work at a startup company, so later I'll do a quick introduction about what we do, stuff like that. And I find like startups is the kind of place where you get to encounter stuff like that. So most of your engineering team is really young. We have even myself, the most kind of senior engineer in the team, is about 2 years plus working experience. So anyone who comes in after that, they're going to be even more lost than you. Then you have no idea what's going on when your Django site gets really popular. No one has any idea what to do, and you have to learn and grow along the way. Right? So like I mentioned, startups is a very interesting place. You gotta go through all this like growing phase together, and then you'll be like, okay, so this thing breaks, that thing breaks, everything that you learn in school is useless, throw it away. Okay? So the startup I'm working at is called Carousell. Taiwan is called, in Taiwan we call it 学种拍卖 because it's more catchy, right? Because what we found out was that when we came to Taiwan late last year, no one could spell Carousell, right? So then we did some brainstorming session, and then our Taiwanese colleague came up with this name, 学种拍卖 which I thought was relatively nice, catchy. So what we do is we are like a peer-to-peer buying and selling platform. So think of it as like Doutian or Yahoo Auctions, where you get to buy and sell from people online, right? So we have this we have a chat app, so you can talk to people live on the app or on the web. So I joined this company back in 2013. There was only 5 of us then, and then so this is like a more recent photo of us, the whole company. So when I say that the whole company is pretty young, I do mean it. Everyone is, the average age is probably about 24, 25, and I'm already one of the older ones that are 27. Right, so if you can see the left side, you see more guys, so that's the engineering team. Then the rest is like the community, our customer support team. Right, so this is us with the Carousell, which is the inspiration for our logo. Okay, so it's just a for fun slide, just to show like what kind of culture it is at Carousell. Okay, so why startup? Why join startups and suffer? Because you got to go through this amazing phase. So when you first start, when Carousell first started back in 2012, no traffic, or you get some traffic. Every week you celebrate like we have 5 signups this week, stuff like that. So you have literally no traction, no users. And then once you go past that phase, assuming you build a product that people like, you start getting some traction, right? So your growth curves start looking good. It goes up. It's like those mathematical curves you have to do in school. You plot it out. So this is the fun part. You start encountering some problems and you solve them as you go. And then you'll be like, oh, I feel confident. Then the next stage is the terrifying one. It's just nothing but fire. Like everything just breaks down. Imagine maybe TechCrunch or Hacker News, someone, or even Product Hunt, someone talks about your app, your company, and then you're gonna get tons and tons and tons of signups, tons and tons of concurrent connections. So if you're a startup, you have your money at the start, and you'll be like, okay, I only have 1 server. And then you have millions of users hitting your servers, it's just gonna go down, right? So that's the kind of traffic we're talking about today. And for most of the time, like maybe 2012, 2013, my life is pretty much like that. People come in here and they tell me, okay, I think the website is down. And then I have to me it's like, wow, okay, sure, yeah, what's new today? Everything is just burning on, so it's just another part. So every day I'll come in, I'll fix something. I think early 2014, I went on a holiday trip in Japan, and then someone told me that, oh, sorry, I misconfigured the databases, so everything is out of sync. And I was on the Shinkansen at the time, so I had to pull out my laptop, use the Wi-Fi, and then set the whole database replication. And then I'm like, okay, startup is fun, but it's really stressful. So the kind of typical scenarios where you get very, very exciting traffic could be because of you announcing your own company product and people got interested. So this is what I call you brought it upon yourself. Okay? Then maybe as a result of press releases or media sharing, you get very, very high traffic growth. And so when you have a lot of users joining at one time and they do tons of activity in your app or website, more problems arise. Okay, server outages is very different because we tend to think that, okay, on cloud platform, everything is fine, right? You're just on the cloud, you can spin up servers as and when you like. But when your startup is just starting out, you don't have so much money to set up redundancy and stuff like that. So what happens is I'll get an email maybe like day or night, randomly I'll just get an email from my hosting provider. So it's DigitalOcean. And DigitalOcean will just send me an email telling me, sorry, something is wrong with the hypervisor, so I will reboot your application. So if you only have one server, that means your whole app is just rebooted. So I don't know, and you don't even know whether everything is back in sync when it comes back alive. And fortunately, if you are using Django, so the gift that Django gives you is it has tons of stuff included. So those are stuff that you can use to help you. And the whole ecosystem around Django is strong. So that means you have a lot of third-party libraries that you can use. And this is like maybe database-specific libraries, authentication, verification, stuff like that. And the whole framework itself encompasses a lot of like best practices or web frameworks. It's just a bit similar to Rails, but I think we all use Python for one reason, and not Rails, part Ruby or Rails. So I don't want to talk about it. Okay, so Django includes a lot of batteries. So they say it's like a batteries included philosophy. So you get an admin site for free, you get users, authentication, permissions, tons and tons of stuff. And Django is one of my favorite because it allows you to do like location queries, right? So for us, we use location because maybe you want to buy and sell stuff at a particular place. So we use that Django to store all this latitude, longitude. And we don't have to do anything special because everything is built in. Okay, so these are the stuff we can use. And some of you, if you're building a new site, new app from Django, you might be wondering if you're making the right decision. So the answer is yes, because I hope you guys have all heard of Instagram. So Instagram, one of my favorite. This is how the architecture looks like even after getting acquired by Facebook and moving to Facebook infrastructure. It still looks pretty much the same as most Django stacks. So you have a web server in front, you use Django, databases, caching, Redis, salary. That's it. That's all it takes for Instagram to run. And they handle like billions and billions of uploads every day. Right, so that's the nice thing about Django. You get to keep the stack you like, and you can have, and then you have the tools you need to solve the problem. Okay. So today's talk, I'll be focusing a lot on stopping the fire before it gets out of control. So maybe some tips, some tricks that you might want to start using or start learning before things really go out of hand. Right? I don't know how many of you here is on standby on your phone, which means that if your phone rings, you must pick it up. I have been on standby ever since I joined this company, and I've never had a day off. If I need to go on a day off, I must tell people in advance, okay, you can on standby. Otherwise, by default, my number is always at the top. Right, so I hate my ringtone, but yeah. But because the crowd here is pretty generic today, so I'll just give very general advice. So these are stuff that you can probably apply no matter what kind of website you're doing, whether you're using Django to build APIs, or whether you're just building a simple website. Okay. So like I mentioned, I work at Carousell since 2013, that was March. We don't count this officially, but I'm unofficially the employee #1 at Carousell, along with one of my other friends. So we are both #1s, and we never really bother fighting who's the one who joins seconds or minutes later. And my role there, back in 2013, I focused a lot on API, so backend stuff. We don't use the web so much, and of course, as things grow, as we get more users, I started doing like 50% backend, 50% infrastructure. And infrastructure is not something I'll cover a lot today, but if you don't have an ops guy in your company, ops person, ops lady, whoever, you're going to be the one on call, like me. Right? So I put my phone on vibrate today, I hope it doesn't vibrate. Okay. Because there's this, there's been like 2 or 3 talks where I'm in the middle of a talk and I feel my phone vibrating non-stop, and then I just pray nothing happens. Okay, we use Django at Carousell. Back in 2012, we used it as an API server. So we are mobile app first. Back in 2012, we only have iOS and iOS app. And then we use Django mainly as an API server. And then we have a simple website that serves a couple of pages just for SEO purposes. Right? Because if you want to sell something on Carousell, we try to put it on the web for you. Even though at the time we spend zero effort on SEO, so even if you list it as a website, Google doesn't index it. Yeah. But then again, in 2013, we turned it into a full API server, so I took out a lot of the web stuff. So I can trim down a lot of the unnecessary stuff, so that I can focus on making the API server fast. Okay. So for today, I'll talk about the stuff, the tricks I will mention today. Some of you may have heard of them. That's good, so you can just have some reassurance that this is this is the right thing to use. Okay, so if you have no traffic, some traffic, and you don't think this is going to take off, you don't need to do anything here. Right? If you get some traction, you start seeing the growth curve going like that, or you're already maybe in the same stage as us where the fire, everything is burning, and you haven't been doing any of this, you better start doing. Right? Yeah, I'll split this talk into 5 parts, talking about 5 different things. So the first part, I'll mainly focus on ORM and the database. Okay, so the thing about ORM and the database is it abstracts a lot of the database stuff from you, which is both good and bad. The good is when you're starting to write stuff, so you don't need to think about how long this SQL query is going to be, how the join is going to be like. But the bad part is when things go wrong, you have to know all this anyway, right? So inevitable. And my favorite part about dealing with the ORM and the databases is your queries will slow down. And if you don't have tools to monitor and identify them, you would have no idea why your whole app is slowing down, because you're using it as an API server, right? So here's a very, very simple example. So when things are fine right off the bat, you just started the company, let's say you have some sort of a bookstore or stuff like that. So this simple kind of filter where maybe you have like 2 or 3 conditions inside, this takes about 100 milliseconds. So in most scenarios at the start, I would say this is okay, 100 milliseconds is okay, because you have more important things to do for your startup, for your company, right? Maybe you want to finish the whole thing. Okay, but maybe you start seeing some growth and you're very happy, you're celebrating, and then you come back and then you realize that, oh shit, this call is now taking 15 seconds. Right, so this is all real story lah. So I've been through this stage where I look at this query, I'm like, okay, it really takes 15 seconds. So it feels very bad because it's like, you feel like you wrote this query, it should work. How come over time, your best friend is now sabotaging you, bringing the whole site down? I'll do this almost every time I encounter this scenario. I'll look at the thing, I'm like, and the worst part is when you are the one writing the code. If it's not your code, if it's not your code, you have someone else to blame. Okay? So when you encounter scenarios like this, the first question you should ask yourself is, how many rows are there in that table? Right? So as you know, SQL, they have their own execution strategy in the database. So if you don't do some optimization on the end, when you have 1,000 books, everything is fine. Right? They can just do a quick descan. But maybe when you have over 1 million books or stuff like that, then things become really slow. Okay, so if you use Postgres, you have this amazing command called explain analyze. So you need to, by this stage, you need to, I think it's a bit dark at the top for this side. So I suggest you guys look over this side. So the query will just say, okay, can you explain to me how this query works? And then they'll tell you some very weird things. If this is the first time you're saying this, you'll be like, oh shit. But actually, most of the time I just care about the last line, like what happens here. And if it's really bad like this, 15 seconds, then I start looking here. Right, and I'll try to figure out what's going on. So what this whole chunk is telling you is, I have like 4 million books in this table. And it's scanning through all 4 million on the disk to find me the books that are recommended, because I filter by is recommended, a Boolean flag. So it scans through the whole table. And depending on the size of your table, the number of columns you have, it can take really, really long. So this 15 seconds is on SSD, right? It's not on hard disk. So if it's on hard disk, I don't know how long it will take. I don't want to try. Okay. So if you encounter scenarios like this, fortunately for you, Django has a very nice page where they talk about how you can optimize access like this. Right, so this is not a very long page, and if you ever feel like you want to be armed for this kind of scenarios, then go there, go to this page, read every bloody thing, and try all them all out on your own stuff. Right? So maybe you don't have a table with over 1 million rows. It's okay, write a simple script and generate 1 million stuff. And then you can see patterns like this. On the page, they list out quite a lot of things. So one is creating index, partial indexes, understanding how the query set works. I won't go into the last two because I think the documentation itself does a great job at that. Right, so I want to focus on the indexing part because it will help the scenario that I mentioned earlier. Right, so you can create an index either on Django or on Postgres, so on the database side. So for Postgres, this is the command you use, create index on that column, because I'm filtering by recommended books. So I just create an index on that column. Okay, and then the size of the index is probably about the number of rows on the table. So if you have a lot of, if you don't have a lot of recommended books, and then your query is always querying by true, you can optimize the index. Right, so you can do what we call a partial index. So you only tell the database, I want to keep track of the books that are recommended only. Don't bother with the non-recommended ones. Right, so if you don't have a lot of recommended books, the size of your index will be much, much smaller. It could be like thousands instead of over 1 million. Okay, so if you have even more complex filters that, you know, like when you do something .objects, .filter, and then you put every bloody thing inside, and they slow down in future, then you need to do this what we call like a slightly more composite indexes, right? So do you put this recommended first or is discounted first? If I want recommended and discounted books. For those who have never tried this out before, this will be a fun exercise to test how much and how well you know your database. Right, so if you frequently do this type of query, maybe you want to surface this on your front page, like grade items on discount, then you will want to create an index for this. Otherwise, your database is going to be running on a slightly less efficient strategy, which is fine if it's not that slow. But if you do this often and you don't want that kind of betrayal scenarios to come out, then yeah, you should focus on this. Okay, so let's say I created an index on that books table. So now, for the same query, now it takes about 97 milliseconds, as opposed to the original 15 seconds. Right, so this is a huge gain, and all it did for me to improve this was to run one command on the database. Right, one command, it will save you all the headache ever. Okay. Other stuff on the page that I mentioned above, so they also have stuff like caching data, invalidating it. Once you cache data, it's good because you don't query the database anymore. Everything you pull from memory. But invalidating it is going to be a hard problem, right? When you show the new data, is your marketing, is your business people okay with showing older data? Most of the time they'll tell you, no, I want the latest data. And you can just tell them, are you very, very sure? Then they'll be like, actually, I think, yeah. Then that's when you can start applying strategies like this. Right? So sometimes as software developers, engineers, you might need to play a bit of the intimidation card. Right? So another strategy is to use select, related, and extra, so you can combine queries. I'll talk about this later. So now the main focus for the first part is that you must learn your ORM or your database. Right? So if you think things are going to take off, don't be lazy and think that you can delay this, unless you have someone else to tank this for you. If it's just you, don't risk it. Right? Just start reading stuff and then do everything by yourself. It is always safer. Because what we went through was, I read through that page long ago, I forgot all about it, and then when shit happens, go back and then, okay, and then pray every night. Okay, so part two, when everything's burning or not burning, you should be focused on predicting what kind of performance you need. Like how do you speed up new servers is by having more traffic to maintain the same amount of performance. So like your average response time should be more or less the same. You can do this for the whole site, so that means you monitor across every view every Django view that you write, or you can focus on the really high throughput ones. So these are the ones that are maybe get hits the most often. So maybe you want to optimize your index page, because if your index page is slow, then your conversion rate will be lower because people drop off before they can even look at your page. Stuff like that. So you need to factor in like some sort of business requirements, all this when you decide what to optimize, because you only have fixed hours a day. I don't think you want to be working on this 24/7 because most of you have life outside of work, right? Yeah. Okay. So Django debug toolbar is an awesome tool if you need to figure out how many queries, how many stuff takes. So it helps you answer two big questions. The first is, how long does this whole view take to render finish? If you're building a website, they'll tell you the whole rendering time as well. If you're building an API, then your main focus should be on stuff like database access queries, how many DB queries is it making for this view. Okay, so another simple example. So maybe you have a view for doing login, right? So Django already provides you this view, so don't redo it yourself. But maybe you want to customize it because you want to show interesting information, that more domain-specific information. Right, so in this case, I check if the user is authenticated, and then if it is, I get the user, some info, and then I want to figure out how many books this user has. Okay, so this simple view itself makes about 3 database queries. So how this works is, if let's say you have 100 requests, this is either per minute or per second. You're talking about 300 database requests. That's fine. Okay, but maybe you have 100,000 requests coming in per minute, per second. Okay, per second is a lot worse than per minute. Okay, so if you're doing like 100,000 requests per minute, per second, then you are making about 300,000 database requests per second as well. So this is the kind of point. This is the point of time you'll be like, so how many servers do you need to maintain performance? So 300 database requests, I think any mid-tier, small to mid-tier servers can handle it fine. But if it's 300,000, then you don't know how to calculate from there, right? Because you have no idea what is the number you should be dividing on. So the general advice is you benchmark everything, every view. If you think it's important, then measure how long this database query, how many database queries a view is making, and how long each of them takes. Okay. So if you have all these numbers, then you can maybe do some estimation. So you even need to benchmark your database servers. Run fake queries, run some scripts, and then figure out like, okay, maybe a 4 core can handle this amount of queries, 8 core can handle this, so if I do a simple estimation, then maybe I need about 13 servers. If your startup doesn't have any sort of seed funding, then you need to use your own credit card. So that's the worst. But these are all hypothetical numbers, so don't use this as a benchmark. Don't ever, because I just wrote them on the plane, on the flight here just now. Because I couldn't think of a proper number last night, so I wrote on the plane. Okay, so just measure yourself, because whatever queries you make is going to be domain specific to your own company, to your own stuff. Okay, so a slightly more complicated example on why it's important to measure queries. Right, so let's say I want to show not all books in this category. So maybe category just 1, it could be like fiction, stuff like that. And I also want to show like the number of books I have in this category. So imagine yourself as a bookstore, stuff like that. So I'm going to render this books.html. I'm going to show all the books. I'm going to show all the count. And then if we want to do it the same, how many queries is this going to take? For this scenario, you don't know unless you look at the template. Right, so maybe depending on the template, you may be running at least 2 plus n, where n is the number of books in this category. So you're going to be making at least 2 plus n number of database queries just on this view. Okay, so maybe the template looks like this. Maybe you have a loop inside your template where you look through and for each book